Welcome to FoundHer Rising, the podcast for women founders in wellness coaching and consulting who are ready to build businesses that create freedom, impact, and income. I'm your host, Christine Hakkola, business coach, former psychotherapist, and mentor to women scaling service-based businesses. Today, I'm joined by Lanise Lywood, founder of Melanin Mosaic Therapy. She's a psychotherapist and speaker, providing client-centered, culturally responsive care for a diverse range of clients. Lanise, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me. Excited to chat.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to dive in. Let's do just that. I want to start right at the beginning. The name of your practice really caught my attention.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if you could say a couple things. I mean, what first called you to start Melanin Mosaic Therapy? And tell us a little bit about the name as well.
Yeah, awesome. The two stories overlap, so I think I can weave
Amazing.
them
I had a
together
feeling.
pretty well. So the impetus behind starting Melanin Mosaic, or really the foundation of what I wanted this practice to look like, came
Mhm.
from my own experiences of trying to find a therapist that really understood me at a baseline. So trying to build a place where specifically racialized queer folk could
Mhm.
have that baseline understanding of what it's like to move through the world in a body and with identities like this. And so Melanin Mosaic, well, the melanin comes from the racialized piece, but the mosaic is because there are so many different pieces to what make us who we are, different identity pieces that really come together to form our true selves. And I wanted a place where people could bring every little piece of who they are and find a soft landing place in therapy.
I just love that. I mean, certainly no lack of lived experience and passion. I'm curious if you could say a little bit about the logistical pieces. Like, I know so many entrepreneurs and women in general who have, creative, incredible, inspired ideas, and then the logistics of it can just seem so overwhelming. I'm curious if you could say a little bit about what were some of the obstacles, fears, challenges that you faced as you first opened your practice.
hmm Well, just before I actually started my private practice, I was working as an independent contractor at two different psychotherapy
Okay.
practices, which had a lot of pros and had a lot of cons. They were using different booking systems, different administrative processes, different pricing scales, different forms, and it was a lot for me to keep straight. But at the same time, it also gave me an inside view at different ways to run this type of business. And
I'm
so
sure
when
you saw like things you liked, things you didn't like.
yeah, for sure. So when it became time for me to actually start my own private practice, I was able to draw from those experiences, the good and the
Mm,
bad,
yeah,
to build something that was like really feasible for me to actually,
yeah.
create the infrastructure.
What would you say to new business owners that were perhaps just the one or two key things that you knew you really wanted to bring in and do in your own private practice?
Yeah, for sure. Well, a really big thing for me is collective interdependence. And so the sliding scale pricing is a
Hmm.
really big piece that I knew I wanted to have right
Yeah,
from the get-go.
yeah.
And I know a lot of people will do sort of tiered pricing. So this
Hmm.
is my standard, this is a whatever percent discount, and maybe I'll do a couple, one or two pro bono or something like that.
Yeah.
But at my practice, the sliding scale is actually client directed, so it's very flexible. You can
Oh,
go,
interesting.
to 50 cents on the dollar if you wanted to,
Yeah.
just based on people's, finances, if they've got
Yeah.
adequate insurance coverage or not.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of built on trust as well, where
Yeah.
if you lose your job, tell me, you can pay less. If
Wow.
you get a promotion and suddenly get paid more, I'll trust that you can tell me that you're able to, kind
Yeah.
of pay it
There's
forward.
a lot of trust and autonomy
Yeah.
built into that system.
Yeah.
I have a feeling you have more insights, and I want to make sure we circle back to that so we don't
Sure.
miss it. But I do want to dive a little bit more into this one because I think it's so important. It's a conversation I have a lot with women in general who are entrepreneurs, especially when we're in the health and wellness, the service industries, is this desire to be of service. And our clients' ability or lack of ability to pay for services is often a factor. And I have a lot of conversations with female entrepreneurs who are trying to balance, how do I be of service and make my service accessible while also building a profitable business? How would you say you handle or have handled that?
Yeah. On the logistics side, honestly, trying to keep expense costs as low as
Hmm.
possible. Um, Trying to find the products that help me build the infrastructure that I need to be able to, provide the services at a high quality, but not over splurging,
Hmm.
or not trying to build too fast also. I think
Hmm.
a lot of times in the business space, there's this temptation to be like very flashy and very glitzy
Uh-huh.
right away
Deck
and
out the
to
office
right,
and pull out all the
yeah,
bells and whistles.
exactly. But at the beginning, if you can't afford a bookkeeper and you're good with numbers, do it on, Excel sheets
Hmm.
until you can,
That's what I did.
right? Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, so just being more frugal, more responsible, really paying attention to the finances so that
yeah,
you're not just hoping it's going to work. You've got a plan.
yeah.
I'm imagining as you made that shift, like you learned a lot from your previous experiences. There were things that you were bringing in. One of the shifts that I know we all go through is that identity shift from being a therapist or an employee or an independent contractor to being a business owner. Was there a moment or like, yeah, just tell us about that part of your journey when your mindset shifted into, oh my gosh, I'm a business owner now.
Yeah, it's really funny because I never really saw myself as being an entrepreneur
Yeah, I
beforehand.
hear that so
Um,
often.
yeah, I don't think I wanted the full responsibility of everything being
Right.
on my shoulders
We're just
in the
gonna
end.
do the thing and not really call
Yeah,
ourselves that.
yeah, exactly. It's like I was very content with executing someone else's vision, right?
Yeah.
And being like an amazing right-hand man.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, it got to the place where I kind of was having to do a lot of the administrative and boss responsibilities because I was working as an independent contractor.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it actually switched pretty quickly where I
Yeah. You're
recognized
kind of
that,
doing it anyway.
yeah, you're kind of doing it anyway, and it wouldn't be that much more like effort to positive outcome. The
Yeah.
ratio just made sense. And
Yeah.
so I actually started my business within a couple days. I was doing a consultation call, and within that call, I just made that decision. And I told the person, I'm just switching over administrative systems. If you can wait to hear back from me in a week,
Yeah.
I'll be up on the new system and then you won't have to make a
I
switch. It'll
love
just be
this.
simpler for you. And I got
Yeah.
off that call and I said, I guess I'm starting a business. And a couple days later, it was registered.
Yes.
So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I would love to hear a little bit more, Lanise, about your experience opening up a private practice that is maybe not super common in the area you live in, and I'll leave you to speak about that. But say a little bit more about your vision to create and build a private practice that serves folks with marginalized identities in an area that maybe that's not so common.
Hmm. For sure. It was a little bit scary at first because,
Mhm.
like you said, in the end, I wanted to have a profitable business.
Yeah.
I've got, a table to put food on. And
Yeah.
so I think I had to make the decision to just kind of be courageous, lead with the heart, and recognize that, people who resonated with the message would
Hmm.
come. And so while the practice is geared towards racialized queer folks, I have a bunch of other people who don't fall exactly into that niche, who
Yeah.
still resonate with, my worldview
Yeah.
and, my politics and the way that I approach therapy. And
Hmm.
they're so more than welcome to be a part of the practice. We love
That's
allies
amazing.
as well. So yeah, I think leading with the courage and then recognizing that, yeah, if it resonates, you build it, people will come.
Yeah. I love that you said that. And it is a conversation that I have found come up in just many different ways is, and I was talking with another interviewee about the fear of niching down too much, right?
Mm,
And your niche is very big. And there's always that fear of when I say I serve a certain folk, I'm excluding other folks. And what you're sharing with me is something that I've experienced is that even when you get clear on your niche, what you're really doing is getting clear on who you are and what your passion is. And my experience is that that is going to attract folks who align with that message, even if they don't 100% identify with the niche. What's your
Yes.
experience of that?
Yes, I agree with that 100%. And uh, I think part of it, when you're saying it's getting clear on yourself, right? Part of it was really sitting down when it was time to start marketing,
Yeah.
and honing down, like, who is my ideal client? It doesn't
Mhm.
have to mean that that's the only person that I'm working with,
Yes. I
but
love that you said that.
right, like through the client work that I've been able to do, which sessions have really inspired me, which
Mhm.
sessions and what type of progress in people really lights me up, and then
Yeah.
honing that down to talk through the demographics of what's my ideal client
Mhm.
really helps also on the marketing side, because I can picture sort of a prototype of who I'm talking to when I'm
Yeah.
trying to attract people in.
Yeah. I really love that distinction between your ideal client versus who you actually end up working with. And a lot of times I find the fear is if I get too narrow on that ideal client, those are the only types of folks I'm going to be working with. And I have
Yeah,
actually never found that to be true.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So say a little bit about where you are now. You're not new to private practice. You're not just serving one-on-one clients. Your
Mhm.
business has expanded. Tell us a little bit about how it's expanded and what was the impetus for that?
Yes. Well, I always kind of knew, just based on my own personality, that I would need to diversify what I did for work. I actually had a professor who had only known me for a semester say,
Mhm.
"Yeah, when you graduate, you're not just going to do one-on-one client work. You're going to do a bunch of other stuff." And he was right.
Yeah.
So even when I started with Melanin Mosaic, I made the website just Melanin Mosaic, not Melanin Mosaic Therapy,
Ooh,
because I
smart.
always knew that I was going to want to create a couple other branches.
Yeah.
So the bread and butter, mostly what we do right now, is one-on-one client work. But beyond that, I also run a support group for
Mhm.
people who are still living very COVID cautious lives for
Mhm.
different reasons, to bring us together online and talk through some of the isolation that can come from that, as the rest of
Yeah.
the world has kind of pushed back towards the old normal. It's kind of left some people behind.
Yeah.
So our online support groups run really great through the winter in particular. After people are in our support groups live, they have the option to actually join an asynchronous online space, so they can stay in contact with each other.
Kind of like a membership or just a community.
Right now, it's just a community. So there are two cohorts that have joined it so far. So it's kind of building organically. They
Neat.
have socials sometimes, do craft nights together, and that sort of
Yeah.
thing, share resources. So that's really fun.
Uh-huh.
And then I've also started sort of a new program, a hybrid between book club and group therapy, which
Mhm.
has been really, really interesting and fun to build out.
Yeah. So I notice you use the collective word we, and I can't help but wonder, are you saying we like the clients you serve in the group and the community, or do you have a team?
Yeah, well, both and. So
Okay.
things like the online space, that's we in terms of the clients and the participants. We're really
Yeah.
building it organically. But besides that, I do also have a really small, lovely team behind me without whom I couldn't do all of this stuff. So I have an operations manager who's really great with all the nitty-gritty and helps
Yeah.
with, booking, invoicing, receipts, that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
And like my back end administration.
Hmm.
Um, and then I also have a community manager who helps with research and writing on our newsletter, which also
Hmm.
comes out monthly, with
Awesome.
yeah, with
We're going to make sure we have you share how people can
yeah.
find you and get in touch with your
Yeah,
community
the
at the
newsletter
end.
is really great with original content, and it's not
Mhm.
just the typical mental health. It takes a much broader view at a lot of different things that can impact our mental health. So
Yeah,
I'm really proud of that. And yeah,
as you
my
should be.
community manager does really great with the newsletter, and then
Uh-huh.
also with some tech help on the on our community space,
Yeah.
because I'm not as techie. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I'm very glad to hear that you have internal support. I want to unpack that a little bit because that piece around hiring a team and how you did that and when you did that and all of the thought processes that go behind having enough trust, faith, ability to take a risk to bring someone inside your business can be a huge mental and emotional shift for business owners. Most of the clients that I work with and business owners that I talk to, they're solo at the beginning, right? And then they reach a point, especially when services start to expand and diversify, where they realize,
Yeah.
gosh, I can't keep doing this. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you decided to bring on that first team member and what that was like.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned trust, because I think that was the biggest piece, like finding someone that I could trust wholly
Hmm.
with caring about what we're doing.
Yeah, it's
I'll
so
say
important.
almost as much as I do because I recognize, when you're an entrepreneur, it's kind of like your baby.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
but I think the biggest part for a lot of people is recognizing when you're kind of up against your limit in terms
Hmm.
of, capacity and know-how.
Hmm.
Um, because starting your own business, specifically as a solopreneur, you have to learn a bunch of new skills. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's really fun to be able to create graphics, make a
Yeah.
website, really get into the numbers. But then at a certain point, you get to a space where you could do these things,
Hmm.
but your time is actually served a lot better to focus
Yeah.
on some
Yeah.
other things. And so I think that's the point for a lot of people.
How did you know? Like, what were the tells for you that you were at the point of, I could do these things, but it's not the best use of my time?
Yeah, I think just for me, partially having a neurospicy brain was
Hmm.
knowing when the motivation wasn't flowing and
Mm. Yeah.
recognizing, okay, if I sit down and try to write this, reply to this email, it could
Yeah.
take me 25 minutes to get the
Mhm.
wording right and make sure all the details are correct. And there are people for whom it would flow so quickly, they
Yeah.
could do it in 4 minutes.
Yes.
And I could spend that 25 minutes thinking a little bit through strategy or working on my next workshop or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that was it for me, sitting down,
Yeah.
trying to write some emails and recognizing I'm just not the best
Mhm.
person for this part.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing I heard there was really just an internal feeling like I saw you go,
Yeah.
and my experience of that is just I end up procrastinating. I'll have this to-do list worth of things that I'll keep carrying over day after day, week after week, and I realize I don't actually want to do this. I'm not excited about it. Maybe I'm not very good at it. Maybe I don't know how to do it at all. Right? So I just want to pull out and highlight for everyone listening that that is one of those tells that you may be at a point where it's good to bring on even a few hours a week.
For
I've
sure.
had clients bring on somebody just 1 to 2 hours a week to help with admin support. 2 to 5 hours a week is fine. There's a lot of independent contractors out there who will do that. And then the other piece I heard from you is recognizing I'm going to sit down and devote this amount of time to it. And actually, there's people out there who are going to enjoy this more, who are probably going to do it better once they're trained, and who are going to do it faster than me.
Yep.
And as the business owner, our time is really, really valuable. We're delivering the services, but at that point you're talking about, we should also be focusing on growing the business. And if we're stuck doing administrative work, doing things that don't grow the business, don't bring new revenue into the business, those are probably not the wisest things for us to be focusing on.
Yep. Yep. For sure. For sure.
So thanks for that opportunity to
Yeah.
expound upon that. It's so important.
Yeah.
So, when you look to the future for Melanin Mosaic and what you want to build, what do you see happening? Talk about the evolution of it that you have planned over the next few years.
Mm-hmm. Right now, just this week, I'm going through a process of doing consultation calls for new one-on-one clients to come in,
Hmm.
because my roster filled up almost a year ago, and so I've been building a wait list all that time. And
Yeah,
so now I'm finally in a place where I can take on a couple new
those
one-on-one
lucky
clients.
folks.
Yeah. But beyond that, I think looking at some new partnerships and new
Mm.
collaborations,
Yeah.
continuing to build out the book club slash group therapy program, which is called
Yeah.
Black Queer Still Here, where we
Uh,
dive into seminal works by Black queer authors,
uh-huh.
actually. So like
Wow.
James Baldwin, Audre Lorde, Nikki
Hmm.
Giovanni, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So looking for, collaborations with that, whether it's sponsorships for people who want to participate in the
Hmm.
program, but have financial restrictions.
Yeah.
And then very open to just other types of, partnerships and projects.
Yeah.
Right now, I do some work supporting some grassroots organizations and small nonprofits who are, adjacent to the mental health world or directly involved with mental health. So yeah, just branching out and seeing what opportunities come. But right now, we're kind of in the lather, rinse, repeat stage.
Yeah. Which is
And
so important.
yeah, and it's a great one to be in after building new things over the past few years to
I can
just
imagine.
watch the magic unfold.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking about what you said about your book club therapy group and just the potential of that. I know from having been born and raised in Canada and living in the GTA as you do for a long time, the need for the services you're providing is huge. And you mentioned it's online, right?
Yes.
Yes. How big do you see this thing getting? Like, what's your vision for it?
Yeah, I think it would be really great if we could have sort of different chapters of people meeting together. I
Mm,
think it's really important to keep those groups small so that the
mm,
relationships are able to build a little bit more
yeah,
organically and everybody has the chance to share deeply and
yeah.
feel a safety in that.
Hmm.
So I think it would be great if we could have different chapters sort of running at the same time, diving into the same books and
Yeah,
then maybe at the end getting a chance to you know connect with each other to see
yeah.
what's coming out of those because we like to bring practical things out of it, not just personal insights,
Mhm.
but what are we going to do with it outside to build community.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's just so much potential there, whether it's chapters or having other facilitators or,
Yeah.
I can imagine that, the need at some point that potentially developing into some sort of training because those things need to be facilitated with care and skill like you bring. Amazing. I'm getting excited for you here. When you think about this growth, Lanise, what do you anticipate being like the next learning edge for you as a business owner?
Mhm. That's a great question. Yeah, I think the next learning edge would be about sort of team expansion.
Yeah.
Um, because like we said, at a certain point, you reach the edge of where does it make sense for me to do this myself.
Yeah.
So for example, on the previous cohort of Black Queer Still Here,
Hmm.
I had another clinician who was facilitating it. And
Mm.
so looking at as the program expands, how many people and what types of people
Yeah.
do we have to continue to facilitate that?
Yeah.
Um, but as far as a learning edge for me as a leader, it becomes more of how do I have my team interacting with each other and
Hmm.
having support within the team as
Yes.
opposed to as separate independent silos just doing the task that I have assigned,
Right.
you know?
Right. Yeah. I love that you're already thinking about that. And as a coach, what comes up for me too is, it's one thing when you have one or two team members or one or
Right.
two other facilitators, and especially when they're people you know well and you trust, like it can work. Right. And what I know about business is that as businesses expand, as more people have a hand in your work, your baby, right? Your business baby, what is more and more required is systems and processes and documentation so that there are standards. And for some folks, that can feel like a little overwhelming or boring or like, I don't need that. Yet, the bigger an organization gets, the more that's needed. What are your thoughts about that and kind of where are you at in that process?
Yeah, as you were saying that, I think even just legally, right? Like you
Yes.
also need to protect yourself,
Right. Contracts and agreements.
exactly. Contracts and
Hmm.
agreements for sure. And even just, well, particularly in the psychotherapy space, confidentiality
Hmm.
is a huge part, right? And so making sure when you're talking about systems that people's personal information is protected and
Hmm.
that the people that you're bringing in only have access to the information that's necessary for what they're doing.
Yeah.
So my operations person can see, personal health information because they're, handling payments, but they don't have access to my clinical
Yeah.
notes, for example, because that's not
Yeah.
necessary, right?
Right. And that's one thing
So
to say, but there's a whole administrative process behind the scenes of what goes into how to ensure that that's happening and that those legal
yeah,
boxes are checked and logistically things are happening online the way that they should be.
yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you anticipate that being a challenge or is that the kind of thing that excites you?
Mm, I think with the team that I currently have, I
Yeah.
don't think it'll be as much of a challenge.
Nice. It sounds like you have a lot of the right people on your
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
That's
for sure.
fantastic.
Yeah, if
So
it was
tell
just
us.
me, huge challenge. If it was me by myself, huge
I
challenge.
feel the same way in my
Yeah,
business. There are certain things that I'm really good at, certain things that I can do, but as you were saying earlier, there's a lot of people out there that can do it better, and certain things that I really shouldn't be touching because I'm
yes,
making it worse. So
yeah.
having those people, as we were saying, we call it the right people in the right seat, are
Mm,
so critically important to growing, setting our business up for success.
yeah.
So tell me and tell the listeners, when you look to the future, whether it's a few months from now or a few years from now, what's the one thing that you're most excited about in terms of the impact or the potential impact of Melanin Mosaic?
hmm I think in terms of potential impact, there's a real opportunity for community that turns into what's the word that I'm looking for? That turns into tangibly building their own things. So I think through what we're building here, there's a really cool opportunity for the people that I'm able to bring together and give a space to organically connect,
Mm.
that they then actually are able to take that and run with it based on the connections that they've made or the things they have in common or the passions that they have in common, and bring that forward to bring something else. Like we've already seen, you know, people helping each other move, um, or helping friends of friends move, I should say, or giving, job contacts have come out of it already. Um, and so, yeah, that sort of thing lights me up, and I'm just
Yeah.
really excited to see what comes next.
I so resonate. What you're describing is I'm sitting here riveted by it because I resonate so strongly. It's even though you and I work in very different fields, it's it's that ripple effect, right?
Yes.
For me as well, that idea of knowing that the work we're doing isn't just ending here, right? It's for you. You're creating a safe space. You're creating a space for healing and exploration and embracing of identity and all the things, right?
Hmm.
And what you're seeing is that there's a ripple effect that doesn't just end with the people you're serving. It then goes out and positively impacts more and more people. I mean, how many we can't even know. And I
Yeah.
agree. It's one of the most exciting things in the world to me.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Same
that's
page. Definitely
fantastic.
on the same page with that.
Awesome. So I can imagine that there's a lot of people listening who are probably already Google searching you. Where is she? Where's the website? Can you share what is the best place for people to find you or reach out to you if they want to get in touch?
Yes. If you're looking at an overview for everything and also contact forms, then melaninmosaic.ca is the best place. You'll be able to dive into all of the different programs that I've mentioned here.
Mhm.
You'll be able to sign up for the newsletter on the homepage there. You'll be able to see a little bit more about what I do in terms of public speaking and workshops and that sort of thing. And you'll be able to contact us through the website as well.
Amazing, which we didn't even talk about the public speaking, but go ahead and visit Lanise's website and check out her incredible work at Melanin Mosaic. Thank you so much, Lanise, for being here, sharing your passion, your insights, the incredible work that you're doing in the world. And thank you, listener, for tuning in to another episode of FoundHer Rising. If today's episode resonated with you, follow the show, share it with another founder, and leave a quick review. It helps more women find these conversations. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or learn more at hucklehorizons.com. Until next time, keep rising and keep building the business that gives you freedom to live, lead, and create on your terms.